Outdoor ramblings, rambling around the woodlands, the rivers, lakes, and fields. Outdoor ramblings, rambling about the outdoors with Milton and O'Neill. Rambling about the outdoors with Milton and O'Neill. Well, hello, folks. This is Milton Crabapple, and I'm here with O'Neill Williams, and we're about to bring you yet another episode of Outdoor Ramblings. And I think you're going to enjoy today's topic. How you doing, O'Neill?
I'm doing fine. It's a bright, beautiful day. It's going to start raining later. So I'm ready to hang in here with this for a little while, and then I'm going to watch it start raining.
Sure did. I looked out and I saw that sun shine and felt it getting warm, made me want to go out and get bit by mosquitoes.
That's right. We got plenty of them. They're everywhere.
Sure do. You know, speaking of the weather, I had something I saw here. It's been a little while back, but it was a day just like today.
All right.
It was the first warm day this year, and I was over at Old Man Eater's pond and went over there to do a little fishing. I was sitting there fishing on the bank, and I heard something rustling in the leaves.
Oh.
Now, at first, I thought it was a snake. I got to looking where it was, and it was one of them darn chipmunks. You know what that is?
Oh, yeah, they make a lot of noise.
Little old ground squirrel. Now, he was right on the edge of the water in the leaves. He was running back and forth, and he was looking at something out in the water. Now, I looked out there, and out about 8 feet from the shoreline, there was a big old tree stump, probably 3 feet in diameter. A big old tree stump had been cut off in the past, and it was sticking out of the water, about 2 inches of it just sticking out of the water. And there's a big green white oak acorn sitting on that tree stump, and that little rascal had spotted that acorn out there, and he was running back and forth trying to figure out how to get it. And all of a sudden, he dove in that water and swam out there lickety-split to that tree stump and got up on it, and he stuffed that acorn in his mouth. You know, they got a little pouch over on the side of the mouth.
Sure.
He stuck that thing in there and got it tucked in good, and he jumped off of that stump, headed back to the shoreline. He got about halfway to the shoreline, and there's a darndest explosion in the water you ever seen. And there was a mouth as big around as a paint bucket lid, a big bass come out of there and just engulfed him. I mean, just engulfed him and swallowed him whole, and went back under, and the water just settled back down just as calm as if that chipmunk had never even been there. It beat all I ever saw in my life. Well, I just was sitting there looking, and in a minute, I saw this shadow coming through the water. And it was that darn bass. He come cruising back in there, and he eased up to that tree stump, and he stuck his nose out of the water, and he spit another acorn up there on that tree stump. Yes, sir.
I got to spend more time with you, Milton.
I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it.
I guess not.
But anyhow, you see lots of things. Stuff starts coming alive this time of year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You gotta get outside, get out from in front of the computer, and get outside where it's nice.
You know what I'm waiting on, don't you? I'm waiting on it to warm up. I'm waiting on that temperature to get warmed up and that water in them creeks to warm up enough where me and you can slip off in there in a good creek and start catching us some snapping turtles out of them holes and out from under them brush piles.
Well, you got to give me some warning now, because I have to get used to that. I have to think about that.
Well, you have to do like Leroy Powell told me one time. You know, me and him had a turtle grabbling trip set up, and he was going to film it and all, and dadgum if he didn't get sick and pass away. And I hated it. We didn't get to go on our trip, but he said I was going to have to give him enough notice for him. And I never forgot this. He said enough notice to fortify himself with strong waters.
Hey, I agree. That's what I was just talking about. You got to, somebody like myself, we got to get ready for a turtle grabbling trip.
Well, that's true, but you know, it ain't as dangerous as most folks. I grew up listening to when I was a kid, listening to my granddaddy talk about grabbling for turtles. Of course, he was old when I was growing up. He didn't do it anymore. It's hard to do it when you get a certain age because you're crawling around on them rocks and in them tree stumps. But now my pa, he didn't do it, but he went with him when he was little and toted the sack when he was growing up. See, turtle grabbling really got started and got popular back during the Depression. Folks didn't have nothing to eat, and they found that turtles was good to eat, and there was plenty of turtles, and so folks would get out whole neighborhoods to gather up and go grabble turtles all day and catch enough to have a big old turtle dinners and feed the neighborhood. They'd spend 2 days cleaning turtles. My granddaddy used to tell me about that, but my daddy wouldn't never take me because he was afraid to do it. So
well, it takes a little challenge. You have to.
Well, I'm a reasonable man, O'Neill. And I had all these old timers that told me they used to do it, and I used to count all their fingers while they was talking, and they all had all their fingers. And they'd tell stories about getting bit and stuff, but you know, they didn't. None of them I could ever account for ever got drug up under a creek bank and was never seen again. That never happened, as far as I know.
Yeah, but that's part of the consideration.
But one day I was about 18 years old, I guess, and I was doing a job helping a fella clearing some property, and there's a big creek that come through there, pretty wide creek. And I happened to look off, and I was dumping some wood scraps off in the creek, and I saw a turtle's head sticking up out of the water, and this creek was muddy.
Okay.
But I got off. Okay. I got up in the water, and I snuck up through there. It was about knee deep, and I got about 6 feet from him, and his head just went under the water. Couldn't see it. It was muddy water, but I just run over there and felt for him, and I felt his tail and pulled him out of there. That turtle weighed 24 pounds. He was a big one.
Look out.
Well, I took him home and went to showing him off. Well, another fella lived in our neighborhood, in our hunting circles there. His name was Frankie. Now, Frankie was older. He was about the age of my daddy. He was older, but he was a real turtle grabbler. Now, I'd heard he was. Well, he heard about that turtle and came over and saw it. He wanted to know where I got it. I told him I got it in this creek. He said, "Can we go over there turtle grabbling?" And I'm telling you, my eyes just lit up. I said, I'm about to see it done for real. So him and another guy met me over there, and I showed him the creek, and we got down in there. He brought a big tow sack with him. And there's a bridge you could go across, and there's a big old brush pile, log jam under this bridge. Well, the first thing Frankie did, he just walked off in the water and walked over to that brush pile and got down and run his arms up under there, and all of a sudden his eyes lit up, and he said, "There he is." And I'm telling you, you talk about excited, and I was excited, and Frankie come out of there with a big turtle, had it by the head. Had it and got it by the tail and put it in the sack, and we went on up the creek a little ways. There was another old log jam. He pulled another turtle out from there, and here right across on the other side of the creek under a bank, he pulled out another turtle. Caught 3 big turtles in about 20 minutes. And I'm telling you, I got a picture of it somewhere. I'll find it and show it on one of our episodes. But I come home with a whole new attitude. I said, I've got to do this now. I got to catch me a turtle. So there was a creek that run back behind our house, behind where we live, back down in the swamp. Runs right through the middle of Roswell. It's called Hogwaller Creek. And Hogwaller Creek run right down behind our house. I come home from work the next day, and I got me a tow sack, and I walked up that creek. There's a path that went up through there. And I got up there, and I found a little old deep hole. I said, well, this is as good a place as any to start. I reckon I was by myself now. I said a little prayer, and I got down in that creek, and I just said, I'll start here, and I'll work my way all the way back to the house. It was about 200 yards. And if I'm lying, I'm dying, O'Neill. I stuck my hand under the bank. First time I'd ever done it in my life. And I felt something under there, and I said, there's a goddamn turtle. And I felt of him, and I determined that he was facing out toward me.
And
And I realized that my hand was running right across the top of his head while I was feeling of his shell. And I said, well, now they say they won't bite when they're under there, and I'm fixing to put it to the metal right here. So I reached around, I found that old jaggedy back edge of his shell back there, and I eased around and got a hold of his tail. And I spun him around there, and I drug him out from under there, and he weighed about 10 pounds. Now, you talk.
Oh, boy.
I was more excited than I was when I killed my first deer. And I got him down in that tow sack, and I said, well, I'm going to move. And then I happened to remember Frankie said sometimes there's 2 or 3 in one hole.
Yeah.
So I tied that sack together, and I got down on my knees, and I run my hand way back up in the back of that hole, and there was another turtle. I felt him. I drug him out of there. He weren't quite as big as that, but I put 2 of them in the sack and just went straight home. That's all they did, went straight home. And we cleaned them turtles, and we ended up eating them. But I'm telling you, I was hooked on it after that now.
Well, tell everybody what a turtle tastes like.
It tastes exactly like turtle.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
You know, they say it's got 7 different kinds of meat in it, but it does. The neck meat, they got a long neck, and all the neck meat is white meat, and the tail meat is white, but their legs and their hip joints and all, and the joints and all that, it's a dark meat.
Right, like a chicken.
Some people don't like it, but I like dark meat, and I love to eat turtle, fried turtle. You know, me and you went one time doing a TV fishing show, and
yes,
we sat up there, and I made some turtle and biscuits, and we took it, and we sat on the bank of the lake and ate it. But anyhow, we'll be doing some turtle grabbling here before long, me and you now.
Absolutely. You count me in. I'd love to do it again, and I've got a story for you.
Let's hear it.
All right, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go back now to the time you and I, the very first time you and I went turtle grabbling. I was a total rookie, and I still would qualify as such. And we were going to do a television show, turtle grabbling.
I recall that.
Oh yeah, and you were doing all the work. You're catching the turtles, and O'Neill was not bold enough, because I had a cameraman and I wasn't bold enough to take charge and reach under there for a turtle. So I told my cameraman, I said, you get up in the woods and I'm going to be in the water and I'm going to reach up under the bank just like I know what I'm doing. So we'll have that on tape. So it'll look like O'Neill is with you and I'm grabbling. Okay. And you're working on, you're down the pond. You're down the pond and you're getting turtles, and we got another event to tell about, but you don't know this one. Ready? Mike got all set up with his tripod up there in the woods so he could look down through the trees and all that kind of stuff. And I'm playing my role. I'm my cheeks up against the grass and my arms reaching way up under there like I really know what I'm doing. Okay? And a muskrat ran up out of that hole and out my arm and over my shoulder. I almost died.
That's when I heard that loud scream.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, I never will forget that scream. You sounded like an 8-year-old girl that got into a yellow jacket's nest. That's what you sounded like.
I wasn't ready for that, for that muskrat to run out of there. Ran up right up my arm and over my shoulder.
Well, you know what I like to do to folks now? I've been known to do this several times.
Uh-oh.
Up here in North Georgia where we are, there's a lot of water snakes in these creeks and lakes.
Yeah.
But we don't have water moccasins. You know, the water moccasin, which is a cottonmouth, that's the only poisonous water snake there is.
Yes.
And we don't have them in North Georgia. They on down below the fall line in middle and South Georgia. Further south you go, the more
I tell people that too, because they think every snake they see in the water is a cottonmouth.
Well, they think every snake they see is on land is a copperhead.
Yeah.
Even if it's a green snake or a black snake, they still think it's a copperhead.
Yeah. Scared to death.
But anyhow, I've been known to, when we grabbling, and you know, lots of us wear overalls and all, because you get down, you don't want your shirt tail coming up and gravel and all getting in there. It just works better. It keeps more stuff out of your clothes if you wear overalls, like I'm wearing right now. But reach under there and you feel a snake under there. Well, usually I won't say anything if I do, and I wait till the Grabblin fellow with me has got his arm up under the bank and he's trying to feel around under there, and I'll come up behind him and just take that snake and shove it right down the back of his overalls and turn it loose. Now you talk about somebody hooping and hollering now. Sometimes that really gets away with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a fella throw a rock at me one time. If he'd have hit me in the head, he'd have killed me, but he didn't appreciate it at all. No, sir.
Well, you got to have a certain sense of humor not to get bothered by a snake getting put in your britches.
I found a picture here now.
Uh-oh.
This is an old one. This is all the way back to about 1972. I took these two young fellas. Of course, I was kind of a young fella too back then, but we drove all the way up to Tunnel Hill, because Frankie told me that time, he said, you can go up there around Tunnel Hill and all up around there toward Chattanooga, just pull off the side of the road, any of them creeks. He said, there are lots of turtles up there. He said they went up there one day, there was about 6 of them went, and they grabbled all day long, and they said they caught 96 turtles.
Good grief.
They had the back of a pickup truck slapped full of them. So I just took that. I just went up there, and me and these two young fellas, they ended up being my brother-in-laws. Okay. My Crabapple's 2 younger brothers. Back then, they was teenagers. And I said, we're going to go turtle grabbling. And they said, well, you're going to go turtle grabbling. We're going to go watch turtle grabbling.
Okay.
So we went up there, and we just found a creek running across the road and stopped and asked somebody if we could hunt turtle. Back then, in them days, 50 years ago, a little over 50 years ago, folks didn't mind if you prowled up and down the creek and fished in the lake or whatnot. It ain't like it is today. But anyhow, we went up there and got in the creek, and we must have stayed there about 3 hours in that creek and another little creek that run in there. And we caught 18 turtles.
Oh, my goodness.
Put them in the trunk of the car. Now, the biggest one didn't weigh but about 8 pounds, but I found this old photo. I'm going to show it to you here. Now, the folks listening can't see it, but this is us when we got home. We had these in the trunk of a Toyota automobile. And if you can see it, that's let me see where. That's us standing out there.
I can see the turtles. I see you.
We all holding up turtles 2 apiece, and there's a whole bunch of them on the ground. We caught all them in about 3 hours.
Well, you were right on them.
Well, we're going to get on them this year now. I ain't been bit but once in my life.
And I was there for that.
You was not only there, but you caused it. Yes, sir.
All right, you better explain that now.
Well, I had this turtle. It turned out to be the biggest turtle I ever caught. Weighed 34 pounds.
Yes, sir.
And you remember that. I was trying to get him out from under the bank, and the bank went off kind of deep, and I was pulling back on him. When I got him up, he was trying to swim, and I was about to go off in the deep water, and you was behind me trying to keep me pushed up into shallow water and keep me from drowning, because I wasn't going to let go of that turtle. I knew how big he was. And I got him, had him by the tail with both hands. And I was trying to push him up on the bank where the fella up on the bank with the camera could grab a hold of him and let me get some relief. And as I pushed him up there, I got all stretched out, and he reached up there and clamped down on my forearm. He didn't hang on, now, thank goodness, but I had on a set of long wool long johns. And that's all that saved me from getting cut, I guess. But it was just a big old snap, strike like a snake. Well, I looked down, and I remember you saw it. You hooped out and said, "Oh, Lordy," and anyhow, I thought my arm had been chopped off. That's how bad it hurt. And I pulled my shirt sleeve up, and it had big old Charlie horse on my arm and already bruised up and all, but thank goodness it didn't cut me. But if you hadn't have been pushing me so hard up on that bank, I wouldn't have got bit.
I was trying to help.
Yeah, I know you was trying to help, but you got me bit, dadgummit.
And I asked you, I remember asking you, how are you? And you said, I'm not any good, Mom. I just got bit by a turtle.
That's true. That's the only one I ever been bit by.
And it was my fault.
It was your fault.
I believe that.
I don't hold it against you.
So. Yeah. Well, it's a long time ago.
But we had some good times doing them TV shows and catching them turtles. We did several shows.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the one that I enjoyed doing the most in the turtle grabbling was in the creek. Because remember, we did one in the pond, then we did one in the creek.
We did one up in Mill Creek.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. We did.
And you could just get down and waller in the creek. You know, it was only 18 inches deep, maybe 2 feet, and you could really work the bank. And I even grabbled a turtle out of there. It wasn't a very big one, but
I don't think we caught many. We caught a couple of nice ones, but yeah. You don't find them as much as you used to. I don't know what's happened to them. A lot of people have grabbled them out, or either they've got in these lakes and ponds.
Right.
Excuse me, I got a sinus problem going on here. Actually, I'm going in next week to have sinus surgery on Thursday.
No kidding.
Yeah, they got to go up in there with an air hose and a water hose and blow out all this stuff and pack me full of stuff. And he said it'll take me 2 or 3 weeks to get back to normal. He said maybe a month or 2 to get plumb over it. But I'll tell you, I've had it for 9 months. It's about to drive me crazy.
Well,
every time I sing, I sound like Johnny Cash.
That's right. Yeah, we've done some good shows together, and Milton and I have, and we've caught a lot of good fish. They're all good, whether 6 inches long or 2 feet, but we've had some good trips. But the most exciting of them all, the most memorable one of them all, is when you turtle grabbling.
Yeah, that's a good one right there. That's fun to do. I had a back fella that was the mayor of Roswell for 20-something years, Jerry Wood. He and him grew up together.
I see.
We grew up. We went through the scouts and all that kind of stuff together. And he was telling me it's been several years ago. It's probably been maybe 6 years ago, a little while before COVID, I reckon. He said, we ought to do one more trip on Hogwaller Creek for old time's sake. He said, while we still can walk around and get down in the water, he said, we just ought to do one for old time's sake. I said, well, let's go do it. So we decided that Saturday morning we'd go up there, and right through the middle of the park in Roswell is where it was. And another buddy of mine went with me. He was supposed to take the phone and the iPhone and was going to make a video. So we come up the creek, I was sitting there looking at a hole. This other fellow went up above us about 20 yards, and all of a sudden he hollered out, "There's a big turtle. Here's a big turtle." So I went up there. I said, "Is it a snapping turtle?" He said, "Yeah, big snapping turtle, big head, long tail." He said, "It's a snapping turtle." Well, I got up there and I said, "Where is it?" He said, "Well, just as he saw it, it saw him and it took off. And there's an old log jam up there on the side of, in a deep hole, log jam trash pile." And
Sure.
He said it went up under that log jam there. I said, "You sure it was a snapping turtle?" He said, "Oh, it was a snapping turtle." So I got around there and trying to feel around. It went off deep under that old log jam, and I couldn't even get my hands down to the bottom, without. I was plumb up to my nose, just sticking out of the water, trying to feel all down in there, and I couldn't. I said, "This water's just too deep up under there." And my friend Jerry, he said, just kind of joking, he said, "Yeah, they wouldn't be but one way to get that turtle." He said, "That'd be to go under there after him." And I stood there for a minute, and I took off my hat and handed it to that other fella, and I said, "Y'all give me 20 seconds and then grab my ankles and start pulling me out from under there." He said, "You ain't going to try this, are you?" I said, "I'm going to do it. I'm going to get that yellow turtle." So I got down and took me a big breath, and I just slid up under that log jam. I mean, I just crawled up under there.
Okay.
And I had my hands up in front of me, and I was holding my breath, and my hands went way up under there, and my hand just went right up a turtle's end of his shell, and there was his tail, and I grabbed a hold of it, and I started kicking my feet, and they grabbed my ankles and dragged me out from under there, and I had that turtle. And that fella, he said, "I ain't never seen nothing like that in my life." He said, "That beats all."
I'm sorry I missed it.
And the fella that was going to be making the video got so excited he forgot to turn the camera on.
Oh,
He sure did. Now he forgot to turn the camera on. So, but that was a good one. And another good one was we was fishing down on the Chattahoochee River one time, and I got a little boat. It's an old homemade 10-foot fiberglass boat that Grandpa Crabapple used to own. We call it the loggerhead. It's a little old bitty flimsy boat, but we was down there prowling around in one of them backwater lakes. It was shallow and just had a little electric trolling motor on the back of it. And this fellow was in the back of the boat, chugging it along. And I was up in the front, and way up about 30 yards up in front of us, I saw a turtle's head sticking up.
okay.
Nose. I knew what it was. And I said, turn that motor on wide open and keep going perfectly straight. I said, don't turn. He said, what's going on? I said, keep it going straight. Don't ask no questions. Full power. And I laid down and hung over the front of that boat, and we was coming up on that turtle, and I just as we was about to run over him, I reached under there and grabbed him and got him by the tail, and I hauled him up into the front of that boat and just whirled around and flopped him down in the bed of that boat, and he was snapping like crazy. And that fella got up on the edge of the boat, and I thought I was going to lose him. Yes, sir. He was standing up on the back of that boat, and his eyes were that big around. And there's two fellas bass fishing about 50 yards away that saw me do that. And one of them hollered out, he said, I ain't never seen nothing like that in my entire life. But anyhow, we took some pictures of the turtle and all, and then we let him go. And I caught another big one time and threw him up in the boat with old Ken Sturdivant, and I thought Ken was going to jump plumb out in the mud and disappear. Yes, sir. I saw it. He didn't see it, and I just jumped out of the boat and grabbed it. He thought, actually, when I jumped out of the boat, he said the first thought that come in his mind was, if there's something in this boat that made Milton jump out of the boat, I'm jumping out too. And he was ready to jump out of the boat because I jumped out of the boat. And I come up with that turtle, and
Well, that sounds smart to me.
God darn thing nearly bit my fly rod in two.
People
But
don't
anyhow,
realize how people don't realize, unless you've been around one of those snapping turtles, how quick they snap.
they're quick as lightning.
Yeah, it's like a snake snapping.
And I've cleaned them.
Impressive.
Now, maybe you can tell me the answer to this too. Now, you've seen these shows where they hunt these alligators.
Yeah,
That show Swamp People. You ever watch that?
I have once or twice, maybe.
Yeah. And they get out there and they catch them alligators, and they get them up, and that alligators are thrashing and snapping in there in the boat, and they'll have a little old 22 rifle, and it may be a 8-10 foot 700-pound alligator snapping, but they'll shoot that rascal right behind the head with that 22 rifle, and he's instantly dead.
Oh,
Instantly dead. I mean, they shoot him and he stops moving, and they immediately grab him and start hauling him over in the boat. He don't twitch, he don't flinch, he don't do nothing. He's as dead as a doornail.
oh,
But now you shoot a turtle in the head like that in the same place, it don't matter. He just keeps right on kicking and going. As a matter of fact, you can chop his head off on a chop block when you're getting ready to dress him out. You can chop his head off and lay his head aside. And you can go out there an hour later and try to clean him, and he'll fight you with them feet. You grab a hold of him, he'll claw you, he'll tear you all to pieces, and he ain't even got a head. Beats all I ever seen. And you can take that head and pick it up, and he'll look at you and open his mouth, and you stick a stick in there, and he'll clamp down on it and bite the fire out of it.
I'd like to see that.
And that goes on for an hour or two after he's dead. Beats all I don't know why. Now, they're both reptiles, aren't they?
Yes.
Turtle and alligators.
Yeah.
I don't know why it is that you can dispatch one with the big alligator with the 22, and he's done for. But the turtle, it don't make a bit of difference to him. You got to let him lay there for a long time till he decides to give up.
Well, I guess I wonder how long they live. A snapping turtle.
Well, I don't know.
You ever looked it up?
They probably in common snapping turtle. That's what we have here in North Georgia. You get down along the Gulf and bayous and all that, you get them alligator snapping turtles.
Yes.
Now, if you want to know a little more about the science of it, that common snapping turtle, its scientific name is Chiligra serpentina. The alligator snapping turtle is Macrochilus tominkii.
That's scary.
So people say they're the same thing. They ain't the same thing.
No,
and a lot of
no.
people see a common snapping turtle. They say it's an alligator snapping turtle, but it ain't.
No.
It's two different.
No,
two different turtles.
you can. Once you've seen two of them and somebody instructs you, you can tell.
Well, that alligator snapping turtle gets up to 200 pounds or more. You know.
Yes.
Common snapping turtle, a big one, a really big one is 30 pounds. You know.
That's right. Well, that one that bit you that day, it weighed 34 pounds.
34 pounds. He was a
whopper.
Well, I tell you something, O'Neill.
What?
I can't wait to go. This has done got me fired up for turtle grabbling. We're gonna have to go, and we'll get somebody to go with us. We'll get somebody to go with us that'll actually turn the camera on.
Okay.
We'll find something. We'll make us another video.
I'd like to do that.
We put it on here for the TV show, but we need a good video for outdoor ramblings.
Yes, we got to do that. We've committed now. We got to do it.
Yeah. Well, let's do it. Okay.
Okay. I'm involved. I
got to get out of here and go to work.
All right. Well, hang out for a little while and relax a little bit.
I'm going to do it. And folks, y'all listening and watching, we sure do appreciate you. And we'll see you the next time on the next episode of Outdoor Ramblings.
Yes. Can't wait.
Outdoor ramblings, rambling around the woodlands, the rivers, lakes, and fields. Outdoor ramblings, rambling about the outdoors with Milton and O'Neill. Rambling about the outdoors with Milton